right, everybody, welcome to the Werewolf by Night bonus show. This is where Matt and I we a lot of times we'll review werewolf media, movie, TV shows, but then we just kind of like to shoot the shit, talk about records and movies and what we've done, maybe sometimes have a little story time. But yeah, this is just your window into our friendship and the weird shit that we like to talk about. So for this episode, Matt, you had wanted us to watch an episode of the NBC series Fear Itself, which was an anthology horror series that debuted in 2008. It lasted for less than 2 months. Only 8 episodes were aired, and there were another like 5 that were unaired. We're actually going to be talking about one of the ones that was unaired, the one that was supposed to be on yeah, this is episode 9, and after episode 8, it was canceled.
Yes, and it was born out of the series Masters of Horror, which was on like HBO or
it's like Showtime, I thought.
Showtime. Yeah. I think that was a Mick Garris thing, and I'm trying to think what Mick Garris is known for.
I thought just Masters of Horror. Honestly.
No. No, he did. Do you ever see that Stephen King adaptation from the early 90s called Sleepwalkers about the cat people?
Well, of course, Mitch and Amek's in it. Like, why wouldn't I? Okay. Why wouldn't I see it? Of course, I did.
Okay, so he did that, and I think what else? He's done a ton of stuff. Like, but he's more of a producery guy, so he's kind of behind the scenes. Like, I don't know, Critters 2.
Oh boy,
he directed Sleepwalkers. The Fly 2, he wrote. He's one of those kind of guys. Hocus Pocus, he wrote that.
All right then.
Yeah, and he's been in stuff too. Like he was in The Howling, and he was a zombie in Michael Jackson's Thriller. He was in Raimi's The Quick and the Dead. He just got a ton of credits. So he was a honored guest at one of the Portland horror film festivals that I've been going to the last few years. So I got to see him speak a few times in public, and I'm actually wearing a Portland horror shirt right now that has the Plague Doctor mask. This was from 2020s, which I thought was a very appropriate design for 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this series, I loved Masters of Horror. Any anthology is going to be hit and miss because you're pairing up different creators, different directors, different visionary people with different short stories and this, that, and the other. So, Masters of Horror featured that Richard Corbin's drawn story, Jennifer. Have you ever read that one? That's really disturbing about the kind of subhuman wild woman that this guy encounters. She's being threatened by a man at gunpoint, and she's like in rags, and she's got a beautiful body and a horrifying face with fangs.
I don't think I remember that. I know I've seen episodes of Masters of Horror. I just don't really have a lot of memories of
Okay, well, that's like, your John Carpenter's, whoever directed episodes of that. So it was like, I think, more successful, and they spun it off like in that 2008 summer, like we were saying, to NBC, and NBC pushed a lot of the censorship envelopes. There's a lot of gore, stuff like that. It was very hit and miss, so it was much diluted, and I thought not as successful as its predecessor at all. No. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this would be a fun one to talk about. So should we start let's start talking about the issues.
Sure. Well, first off, it's directed by Ernest Dickerson, who we can talk about in a little bit, but it's written by Max Landis, who I did not know a whole lot about at all.
Okay. I mean, I kind of knew him. He's written some comics. He's written screenplays. He wrote, I don't know if you've ever seen Chronicle, that starred Josh Trank, that kickstarted the directing career of, I'm blanking on the guy's name. He did like The Amazing Spider-Man or something like that. He's one of those guys that Marvel or Sony snatched up. But
okay.
But yeah, Max Landis is John Landis's son, so he's the son of a famous director, and John Landis has his own issues. Probably most famously, the way that he worked his extras and stuff on the Twilight Zone movie, and had kids working beyond their hours, beyond their time, and in a very unsafe manner. And there was a helicopter accident in a story, in a segment of that film that killed, who was that? Vic Morrow?
It's Vic Morrow.
Vic Morrow and like 2 kids, and
2 very young kids.
Very young kids. In a story set in a sequence that was set in Vietnam. And that's very troubling. And it's not purely an accident. He was breaking laws and making decisions on the fly that endanger people, and people died. And he kind of just has a reputation of just being kind of a prick about stuff like that.
He's a historically famous asshole.
Yeah. But I mean, he did a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Like he directed American Werewolf in London, Animal House, Trading Places, like I said, the Twilight Zone, which the Blues Brothers, Coming to America, the Kentucky Fried Movie, Thriller, the video for Thriller, Three Amigos, Spies Like Us. I mean, he's a pretty famous guy, but he's very problematic. And unfortunately, his son Max Landis is even more problematic. During the Me Too kind of movement, stories came out that he was sexual assault allegations, emotionally and physically abusive to people. He's just a turd.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening to read about him. There were lots of really large articles, very well researched and very well documented, just about a ton of women that came forward as to how abusive and horrible he really was. And I don't know what else I guess I read a little bit about what else he had done. I'd never seen anything really that he had done. Didn't seem like he did a ton of shit. Like, it seemed like he just kind of, worked the connection to his dad to just kind of be a Hollywood prick.
Yeah, he was a writer, so he wrote Chronicle, that film I was talking about, which was sorry, I had to look it up. It was Josh Trank directed that. So and he wrote American Ultra, which was that film that kind of flopped, and Bright, which was like kind of a dark Superman thing that came out.
That Netflix thing. That's right. Okay. Yeah.
Was that Netflix?
I thought it was.
No, it was a theatrical. No? I think it might have come to Netflix, but it was a theatrical film about a kid that's a Superman that's, what's the worst version of any Superman story kind of thing. And he wrote a Masters of Horror episode called Deer Woman, which I actually really like quite a bit. And he was the producer of Channel Zero. Have you ever seen Channel Zero? But it's a series that was on, I forgot which network it was, but it was based on creepypasta stories. So the first one was based on Candle Cove, which is one of the most famous creepypastas, and it's really, really good. I love Channel Zero Season 1, Candle Cove. And that Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Yeah. So he wrote and was a producer of that. So he's been around. I felt like we need to mention this stuff out of the gate because Brink Bunny, one of our pack members, messaged me this week and said, "Hey, I watched the bonus episode last week and saw that you guys were talking about this. And just in case you don't know, this guy has a history that's pretty not great." And I just wrote back and said, "Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Always want to get kept honest on stuff." And I took some hits of weed last week before we started doing the bonus episode. So I was on the fly just talking about the next upcoming thing. And it's like, oh yeah, Max Landis wrote it. And I didn't register that this guy's a fucking monster, essentially. Yeah. So thank you Brink, for bringing that up. I appreciate it. So let's talk about the episode.
Yeah, well, it was directed by Ernest Dickerson, who I guess he was the cinematographer on like the first 5 Spike Lee movies.
Okay.
And he was a cinematographer on Eddie Murphy's Raw. He went on to direct a bunch of stuff. Like, he seems like a very accomplished like cinematographer than director that had done a lot of cool shit. So he seems super cool. And, you know, it stars Wendell Pierce, who's great. And, you know, this came out in 2008. I think The Wire is just ending in 2008. So, I mean, this is, you know, Wendell Pierce would go on to be in Treme and some other stuff, but he's at the height of his Wire, you know, popularity at this point.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so he stars in this episode, which is called Something with Bite. And he stars as a vet who basically like a werewolf gets hit by a car and is taken into his clinic. He gets bit, and then it just kind of goes from there. And I didn't really understand. I think the tone in this episode was very mixed. I didn't know if it was supposed to be funny or scary. It kind of wasn't either.
I think it was a black comedy. I think that was the aim.
I think it's the aim. I don't know. I mean, aside from before I knew anything, you know, too much about Max Landis, is just like, I don't like the writing in this, honestly. I didn't think it was very good
at all.
It's not really well written at all. I mean, that's definitely the weakest part of this whole thing. And, yeah, you know, Wendell Pierce works well with the material that he's given, kinda, even though I don't know. I didn't think his performance was very good either.
I struggled to see the same actor that played Bunk for 5 seasons of The Wire inside of this performance. Like, every character that's in The Wire, barring 1 or 2 rare exceptions, is a standout, like, career highlight performance of these people.
Yeah.
You know, the showrunners would find people literally on the streets of Baltimore and say, you have a look, you have a vibe, you have a whatever. Would you like to play this part? And they would coach them into acting well enough to be someone like Snoop on The Wire, which is like, you know, Felicia, whatever. It's like, she's a real person. She used her real name, and she's went to jail after that show. She'd been in jail before that show. Like, she's a real Baltimore person. So Bunk, I think, is, you know, up there with McNulty and a few other characters like, you know, I don't know. I mean, everybody in The Wire's rad, but I mean, like, Bunk is a beloved rapscallion. He's a good cop in a shitty situation, and he makes some really bad choices as a husband and a whatever. But I mean, he's lovable and he's 3-dimensional and whatever. And that is not Dr. Wilbur Orwell at all. The veterinarian.
Yeah, no, I mean, talk about your slight werewolf media. This is definitely up there. I can't recommend it. It's just it wasn't anything I really got into. I found myself getting really bored, even though the story kind of went in a few different ways there, but I had a hard time connecting with this. I also feel like taking the Masters of Horror format and putting it onto a primetime network TV, I don't think that really worked well. I don't think it translated very well.
So I was, at this time, Renee and I were friends with folks that had cable. So we would go over and watch Masters of Horror every week at their house. Like, I think Renee was pregnant with Athena at that point. It was a long time ago. And so when Fear Itself started, I was stoked, right? It's like, oh, cool. So it's continuing on NBC, and it's a summer thing. So you get some horror, and they, like I said, they pushed some boundaries, and it was pretty edgy at the time, I remember, but more misses than hits, definitely in the run of it. Like the guy that I've told you that I love in Late Phases, he was the funeral or the cemetery tombstone guy.
Yes.
He's a Maverick director. He directs an episode of that's pretty good. And you can find this free lots of places. Like I think he said Vudu.
Yep, I watched
the
Roku
it on channel
Vudu.
Has it free, and YouTube has it free, all with ads. But yeah, there's some worth watching, and there's director's cuts on there as well. So if you want any recommendations, anybody out there listening of episodes that are worth watching, let me know. But otherwise, it's very hit and miss, and I recommend Masters of Horror over this. But yeah, so the tone of this was very strange. Like you said, it's not funny or scary, but it's a horror comedy.
Not at all.
Wendell Pierce turns in a pretty unremarkable performance for a very talented actor. The material's okay. So I mean, the premise, like Jacob said, is that a guy with a mullet hits something with his truck and brings it into this vet, and it's clearly not a dog, but he's like, I hit this animal, and it's a werewolf. Of cool. That's the best part for me was the monster design. I like the
it was cool
a lot. So we're going to be fully, since we're not like over the moon about this, we're just going to spoil it, right?
Yeah.
So he gets bitten, like Jacob said, while he's investigating this thing, and these hippie parents come in, like moonshine, moon something, and her hippie husband there, and they come in to get there's a tag around the beast's neck that says Michael, and the vet thinks it's a dog tag, but it's actually just a necklace. And after he gets bit, so he has this kind of pathetic home life that's supposed to represent all of us in our day-to-day lives. Like he watches TV every morning when he's having breakfast with his son. They have no communication. He has no connection with his son. His wife is like Mrs. Roper, like Helen Roper, like she wants to get laid, and he's just kind of like, low T, middle-aged guy. And once he gets bit, this all changes. He starts smelling like Wolverine. He starts smelling smells and picking up, whatever. And he gets into his wife again, and he transforms into a werewolf, and things happen. So one of the things that happens is that he has a vet tech that is a complete flake. He just stays home and takes bong rips and plays video games and calls in sick all the time. And his other vet tech is pissed off that this keeps happening, and he ends up he ends up dying. Mm-hmm. And the police start investigating these deaths that are happening by this beast, and they're asking him questions, and it's like that Rue Morgue kind of thing. Like, is this an ape that escaped from a zoo? Is this a bear? What the hell is this? And they're looking at Wilbur, or Wendell Pierce's character, Wilbur Orwell, and he's there's this weird twist in the script where we're left to assume that he has some kind of like the same way that Jack Russell kind of wakes up in the morning and has like dreams of like what he did. And so the first night he goes out as a werewolf, I think he kills that employee that's a shit. Mm-hmm. It's suggested.
It's suggested.
And he nails his wife. And his wife the next morning is very happy with how that went down. And the doc has a pep in his step, and he's kind of stoked. And then he goes in and looks at this beast, and he notices that the bite has healed. And he's looking at the corpse in his office, and he sees that there's piercings in the ear. And he's like, what the hell? And the family comes to pick it up, the hippies, and they're reticent to say what the animal was, and they take it home to bury it, even though he's not supposed to let them do that. And and then it just kind of plays out with its ending, which is kind of a jokey twist thing, which take it from there, Jacob.
Yeah. So, Wendell Pierce's character, Dr. Wilbur Orwell, is that what it is? Orwell? Yeah. So he's not sure whether he's doing these murders. The people just keep on being murdered, and he's not sure if it's him. He goes to the hippie couple, and they're just like, no. When you're in your wolf form, you're not going to do anything that you wouldn't already have done in your human form. And so, he's investigating this. There's a cop that's kind of after him that thinks he has something to do with it. And in the end, he finds the guy, the person who has been murdering these people is just a normal human dude who dresses in this werewolf costume. And his whole motivation for this, he's been doing this so a real werewolf will hunt him down, bite him, and turn him into a real werewolf. So it's this. And the actor who is playing this guy did a really horrible job. And I don't know, it was a twist ending that really, it's one of those twists that you see and you just kind of sigh. You're just like, yeah.
Yeah. So he's like a member of essentially a cult of Fenris, which I think is that the wolf from like Norse mythology, like the big wolf? Yeah. So yeah, like you said, he has fashioned a suit. He wants, so Wendell Pierce, the vet, basically his other employee is attacked. And so he visits her in the hospital and smells her fingertips where she's scratched at the attacker and realizes it's not him. The hippie folks were right. He's innocent, and he follows the scent to this rundown like warehouse, like loft apartment. And the dude's there and he's like, "Oh, you finally came." He's in his wolf form. He looks awesome, by the way. My favorite part of this episode was him being a werewolf.
Yeah, he looked good.
So he busts into this dude's apartment and he's just kind of like heaving and like, panting. And the guy's like, "You're so beautiful. This is my favorite part of the whole thing. Like, you are so beautiful." Like like he said, was summoning this, hoping that he can become this. That was the best part for me. But he says, I made a suit to summon you here and to do these kills. And he has this fur suit and it has like, OG Wolverine claws, and fake fangs that are like metal and like weird metal, like doll's eyes. Like, it's a full on suit. Yeah. And he realizes very quickly that the werewolf is not amused or interested in any of this. No. And he dispatches him. And we get a cutesy ending where the vegan hippie couple are having dinner over at the Orwell household, and everyone seems to be very happy. And the punchline of the whole thing is that the wife goes into the kitchen to get dessert after they have their vegan turkey. And Dr. Orwell goes in and says he'll be a little bit, suggesting that they're going to pork before they serve dessert, which I thought was a weird note. And and then he gives her a little bite as the camera's pulling away from the household and kind of zooming out of this little scene. And he's turned her into a werewolf because apparently being a werewolf makes everything a little bit better.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting take on it. Yeah, once he gets bit, it's not it wasn't what you normally see, which is this inner turmoil about what's happening and the transformation and the change. No, he becomes a suave lover, a confident boss, and like the savage werewolf. Yeah. And it was funny, but it was played pretty broadly by Wendell Pierce.
Yeah, it was like, after like the first night he goes out as a werewolf and he thinks he might have killed that guy. He wakes up in the morning and his wife's like, "Oh, baby, last night was so fun." And he puts his, feet on the floor and looks down at his feet and there's mud all over him. And he's like, "Oh shit. Like that wasn't a dream. I'm a werewolf and whatever." But, it ultimately was a dream. He just went out as a wolf and did wolf stuff and then railed his wife. Yeah. But some of the changes are more complex. Like the first time we see him, he's watching the morning news before he goes to work and eating a jelly donut, and he bites into it. This is a cut from a scene where there's a ghastly murder, where blood sprays across snow. And then it cuts to him biting into a jelly donut and the jelly coming out the ass side of the donut and going over his shirt. Yeah. It's a weird graphic match, which was kind of set the tone for the whole episode. And I was like, okay, this is not going to be great.
No, and it wasn't. It was not great.
But my point was, once he is a werewolf, like his shit improves. Like he misses his son's spelling bee and it breaks his heart. And then the next day he comes downstairs and instead of watching the news while his son eats breakfast and he eats breakfast, he turns the TV off and asks his son how he's doing. Yeah. So he's become a better person as a werewolf.
Yeah. So that was different. At least that take is something we don't normally see. Yeah. I just wish it was handled a little better.
Yeah. So the writing, direction, and performances were just all kind of meh for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing I would recommend.
So if you want to see it, you can see it on Roku or Vudu or YouTube, but not the best stuff. I would start at Masters of Horror if you're interested at all in the stuff, and which I think that was on like Tubi for a long time. I don't know if it still is.
Huh.
But yeah, if you want to check out Masters of Horror and you can find it for free, watch Jennifer. It's disturbing. And then go look at the Corbin original story from like Erie or whatever. It's also disturbing and gorgeous. Yeah. So what should we do next?
Oh, movie or show wise? Gosh, I don't know.
So someone messaged me a screenshot and pointed out that Dog Soldiers is $2.99 on Amazon if we were so inclined to watch a really good werewolf movie.
I mean, I'm okay with it if you are.
I would love to see it again. I haven't seen it since it came out, so it's been almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Should we just do it?
Yeah, let's just do it.
It's got Kevin McKidd. I mean, it's got the cast is great.
No, Tim Tucker's been trying to make us watch this for 2 years, so or a year and a half. So yeah,
All
no,
right.
I'm in. Let's do it for next week. Dog Soldiers.
Good deal. I'm excited. Very excited. And that's directed by the guy that did like The Descent, right?
I'm not sure. I actually am not familiar with who directed that.
Really?
No, I'm not.
Neil Marshall, yeah.
Okay.
And Rob Green. I don't know who Rob Green is, but Neil Marshall, I like him a lot.
Cool.
Okay, so before you talk about that album, I just was curious, like, some of the stuff, like we said, we're just going to unclench on this show and just kind of like be less show and tell and just more kind of like, I'll just make a note when I have a question about something. Normally I would text Jacob and bug him during the day, but maybe I'll just ask him on the show. Do you know much about Jack Katz?
Like the cartoonist?
Yeah. Because he has a career that is kind of in your area, like the started in the Golden Age. So I was just, there's this weird synchronicity thing. It keeps coming up. So I feel like I'm going to buy this thing, but I wanted to ask you if you knew about him at all first.
I mean, a little bit. Like what's his main work?
Well, this thing in the 70s that he did through like 10 deluxe editions or something. It's Titan Comics has collected them. It's called The First Kingdom. And it's this weird like Conan-y pre Earth, like pre civilization. It's not barbarian stuff so much, but it's like it's strange. Like it feels. I just previewed the first few pages on Amazon, and it was like blocks of text, and then like a really cool like portrait, and then it kind of it gets more comic-y and more kind of like panelized, but it just seemed like it was very Kirby and very ambitious, like this big, like he had this big plan and this big story, and he did it over like 10 volumes. And it's kind of a cult thing. And like I said, it came up a few times in my feed. I had my comic shop like want list on the first volume, and I saw it come up in Twitter. I got a notification there was a 1 volume that was used in good condition on my comic shop, and then it came up again on like another social media platform, and I was like, that's weird. So whenever that happens, I always, like Cooper, I'm always like, you must note it whenever this happens. It means something. So yeah, I just want to know if you've heard of The First Kingdom and if you know about Jack Katz at all.
I don't really know. I don't think I know a ton about him just from, I know I've read his stuff, and yeah, he's been around since the Golden Age, and I'm blanking on what his what he's known for, at least his comic work, or if he's a mad guy, or if he's a I'm kind of blanking on that.
Okay. Yeah, he does stuff like Bullet Man and like all the names and like his Wikipedia page, like CC Beck and
Yeah, because he's a Fawcett guy. Like I think he did most work at Fawcett. I know the Bullet Man and that whole thing.
and he was an assistant artist on Thimble Theater, Terry and the Pirates. Like,
Oh wow, okay,
he worked with Hal Foster and Alex Raymond. Like, I just feel
damn,
like his pedigree is so deep.
yeah, that's amazing.
He was a pencil and inker at Kirby and Simon's studio.
Huh?
Meskin and Stein. I mean, his resume is just impeccable, you know?
Damn.
So he got into underground comics and that scene, and that's when he did First Kingdom, which was a 24-issue, 768-page graphic novel
Jesus.
that he took 12 years to complete after writing it.
Wow.
2 books per year. Intentionally totaling 24 in order to mirror the number of books in Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey.
Highbrow.
Yeah. So it's science fantasy fiction, that kind of, it just seems very Kirby-ish to me.
That sounds cool. I'd love to check it out.
Okay. So yeah, the first volume is called The Birth of Tundran, which is, I guess, the name of that world, and I'm going to buy it and report back.
Nice. I look forward to a report.
Right on. All right, let's talk about concept albums.
All right. So, friend of the show, Rebecca Cole, turned me on to this record.
Is she in Pavement?
She is in Pavement. They played their first show, a not so secret show in Hollywood, last night.
I saw pics.
Did you see pics?
Yep.
I read a review in Variety that said that she held her own and shared a winning smile with Bob. So it was pretty good.
Did you check out After Hours? Office Hours, sorry, Office Hours.
Office Hours? No, I didn't. Did you?
Like I said, I had back-to-back meetings, so there was like, my meeting ended like 10 minutes early, so I slapped together a turkey sandwich and was like inhaling it, watching it live on YouTube as it aired. But I did not see them talk about Rebecca, but I was it was Steve and Bob.
Yeah.
So I was just Steve West and yeah. So I was just curious if they mentioned her, but neither of us have seen it. So
no, but it sounded like she had a great time. I looked at the set list. There were lots of cool tracks.
Is there like anything old, like Heckler Spray or like anything from like the 7-inch, the Drag City era?
Like the Slay tracks.
Slay tracks and
no, but there were some weird ones off of Slanted and Enchanted. There was like you got to check it out. It looked like a set list that you and I would just be like, oh, that's satisfying.
Okay. Very cool.
So yeah, it looked really cool. But yeah, so Rebecca, you know, we share music with each other a lot. And she texted me and she's just like, I know this might not be your thing, but there's this guy that I got into, and his name is Randy VanWarmer, and he did this record called Terraform. And so Randy VanWarmer was like a songwriter from the late 70s. He went on to like write top 10 hits for like the Oak Ridge Boys and like other kind of terrible bands. He had one hit song himself that was called Just When I Needed You the Most. And
Elvira?
I know, right?
What?
But you go on
you
like
hate the Oak Ridge Boys?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Oak Ridge Boys. I know, sorry. But yeah, Randy VanWarmer, he had one big hit, which I'd heard before, and it's fine. It's a big song. It has tons of streams, like if you go on Spotify or Apple Music or something.
What is it?
It's called Just When I Needed You the Most. And yeah, so after that, so it was very like super poppy, like smooth track, and he had a hit with it. And he decides to make Terraform, which is, it came out in 1980. It was on Bearsville Records. He was managed by Albert Grossman, Dylan's manager, and the band and everything. And so this was his big statement he wanted to make, which is basically a record that is about like pain and suicide and seeing that the earth is terrible and that he wants to just leave it all behind and get shot into space. And he was supposed to have this huge solo career. Weirdly enough, Grossman like decided that he should only promote it overseas and not do any television appearances. And it was weird. Like maybe Grossman's brain had seen better days. Like I don't know, but he totally tanked this album. And so it went nowhere and has basically been completely forgotten. And but it shouldn't be, because it's kind of a masterpiece in a really weird way. Like it starts out like the opening track is just like an early 80s like country pop song almost. And I mean the melodies are great, but it's just like it's almost like easy listening pop in a way. What I love about it is that, yeah, side A is kind of easy listening pop. And by the time, as it moves forward, like side B, it almost becomes a little more alternative, like a little new wave almost.
It's very no wave or new wave, yeah.
And then it just gets dark and incredible. And, it ends with this ambitious suite of songs called Terraform. It's about a 10-minute track, which I just fucking love. I think it's so gorgeous and beautiful. And then it ends with his own version of the old spiritual song called Farther Along, because he's been shot into space and dies in space. And God, I just fucking love it. And the first side, it's almost like, it's almost like you're like, oh, this is like a guy that would sing like the Perfect Strangers theme, but he's talking about suicide.
Yeah.
And it really is like that, and not something that I would normally listen to, but I listen to this record all the fucking time. I love it.
Easily found?
It's easily found. I got a sealed promotional copy on Discogs for like $8 with shipping.
I was gonna say that has like no fingerprints or nothing.
Oh,
like
and I have to say the fidelity of this album on vinyl is spectacular.
Never figured out who put the tablets in my drink. The poison worked so fast, I poured the last drop down the sink. I never quite recover, I'm always half asleep. With one eye always peering out from underneath the sheet.
Who produced it?
I'm looking.
Anybody we know, like a name?
No one, but that we would know. I mean, just that he's managed by Grossman. It has all the lyrics and a really cool, it's like he's a new wave, like no wave guy from 1980. Like,
it's like Newman.
Yeah, he is. And so, and he's in an actual spacesuit on the cover. And so he didn't live very long. He only lived to like his early 40s. And he died of leukemia and then had his ashes shot into space. So he did finally get that. But yeah, it's a amazing record. I don't understand why no one knows it. I don't understand why it hasn't gotten a reissue by like Light in the Attic Records or something. Like, well, I don't know. What did you think? Am I making too much about this record? What did you think of it?
Sorry, your cat's violating itself.
Yeah, I know.
So I had never heard of this.
No one has.
The tracks you sent me, I was completely drawn and sucked into. Like it is such a strange beast. And like you said, it as an album, it evolves in such a weird way that I think it really needs to be heard as an album. Like you should just go to YouTube and check it out. Like, I'm trying to think of the nearest equivalent. Like the most recent thing I can think of is that Malcolmus solo record he did right before the pandemic. That was electronic, Groove Denied, and it starts off with him fully electronic, and as the album goes on, like you get to the second side and guitar comes in with the keys and the synths, and then by the end of the album it's just a fully acoustic album. So it's like it hits this weird evolution. This felt like that to me, where it's like it starts off, the first side is very, like you said, it has a pop element to it and whatever, but the second side, it gets really fucking grim. And I was I'm buying it. Like if I can buy it for $10 sealed, I'm so down. I was so into it. It's weird. It's fucking weird.
It's so weird. I mean, I get
new
why
wave.
it didn't,
Yeah. This is like that pocket of the music universe that's it's hard to even describe. So whenever I encounter something like that, I'm so into it. I'm just I listened to the whole thing yesterday for the first time. You know, I heard the tracks you sent me, and then I heard the whole album, and I'm totally into it. Yeah. So when did he die? 90s, early 90s?
Yeah, I think early 90s.
Did he do anything else after this?
Not really. I mean, he made a couple records, but, you know, he was going to be this huge star. And he had this, you know, I mean, he had this hit song. He had written for other people. He had really big management. He was on a decent, you know, kind of smaller, but decent label with distribution. And this was the statement he wanted to make. And I just think that probably Grossman, you know, heard this and was like, oh man, what do I do with this? and it died, even though I really think that with some promotion, that some of these songs, even the more poppy ones from side A, could have been a hit. Yeah. I just think that people didn't understand, and they didn't understand that this was an album long statement, and that his view and the music would just get progressively darker from the first song, which the first song is just airy country pop, you know, even though I mean, I knew you would like it because his command of melody is so good. Like every song, like the melodies are so good. Yeah. Like this guy's a pop songwriter.
Yeah. But, like what you said, Perfect Strangers theme. Like I was like, like he's like Andrew Gold or something like that. Yeah. He's super, super talented as a writer.
But
this is just such a strange lark.
It's so weird and it's so dark. Like even the songs that are really poppy. I mean, it was cool that, you know, you get the gatefold record and like you, I mean, I'll just sit and listen to a record and just read the lyrics, and God, the lyrics are fucking dark on this entire album. They're so dark. And it's just him just being so dissatisfied by the second. You know, a lot of it is kind of like boy-girl stuff on the first side and about love. And by the time it gets to the second side, it's very philosophical and just like the earth is shit, you know, like we've ruined this earth. Like, I just want to go somewhere else. Like, I just want to go to space, not for the joy of space travel and the unknown, but just to escape this horrible, you know, existence and pain that I'm feeling in here. And oh my God, it's such an amazing artistic statement. But I think it's something that people didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to market it. They didn't know what to do with it. And that's why people still don't know about it today, because it's so hard to fit into some kind of box to promote it.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. What was Grossman's response to this? Like, he said he did not want to have him tour, or did not want to?
Yeah. So Grossman heard this record and is just like, okay, I think we should skip the US market. Let's just focus on Europe. And no, you're not going to do any TV spots in America or Europe. We're just going to focus on pushing the album and that. I think he basically just wanted to kill it. Okay. I think he looked at that and is like, it's not worth my Grossman time to try to promote this. So
I feel like there's like parallels to like Nielsen, like, you know, Nielsen hated to perform in public and found ways around it, right? Unique ways, like that BBC concert where he performing to themselves and stuff like that. But like, I'm trying to imagine like that on top of like your producer just, or your whatever manager just not even being behind the work, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of biographical information on Randy VanWarmer, honestly. Like, there's, I mean, there's the usual wiki page and some other stuff, but there's really not a ton out there. Like, he didn't have that huge of a career. I mean, he wrote hits for other people, and he had his own hit that I know he made royalties off of, that he was probably able to live off of, because, people actually paid for music at one time. And,
right. I heard about that.
Yeah, it's weird.
So what's this Oak Ridge Boys song that so offended you?
Oh, just the Oak Ridge Boys in general?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like what would I know?
Let's just say it's Elvira.
Is it?
Maybe. I mean, I don't like that song.
Who doesn't like that song?
I don't know. I just don't like the Oak Ridge Boys. Well, so I have a whole thing.
So your heart's not on fire.
No, my heart is not on fire. I just feel like that later 70s move into pop country is just it's just kind of not what I react to. And I kind of react poorly to that. So I have thrown the Oak Ridge Boys into that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just not a fan.
I don't know who you are.
I know.
It's like about Schmidt.
Yeah.
You just turn and look at this person and say, who the fuck is this person in my life? Who are you? Why are you here?
I knew you.
Okay. Well, apparently I have a hot tub to get in with Kathy Bates. So.
Yep, you do. You really do.
Well, anything else fun? Any fallout from the Klamath Falls Comic-Con? Like, is there anybody coming down off of Molly, walking around dressed like a Pikachu or anything?
No, I haven't heard anything bad that came from it. So, no, it was a total success.
You didn't turn anybody's kids gay or anything? No headlines?
No, not that I heard. Even though it was great. Like there's this one small bookstore that's in downtown Klamath Falls, and
what's it called?
I can't remember what it's called.
I looked it up. Like like bookstores in your town. I'm not stalking you, by the way, but I did look at bookstores in your town. And there's one that looks super like charming. Like,
oh, it's very charming, and we've gone in there and we've supported it. It's really, really cool. And but I love the like just the
crane vagina or heron boob.
You're close. It's getting there. Yeah, no, I honestly can't remember, but I was very proud of her because she had a booth there and basically was just proudly displaying all the like graphic novels and stuff that like Fox News had listed as banned, because they're all about they're all about trans kids or a gay memoir, and so they were proudly displayed in the open, and I was like,
it makes me happy, man.
It made me really happy.
Is it Canvasback or Basin Book Trader?
No, I think Canvasback is the one that's in downtown.
I think that's the one that I looked up too. That looked like super like, wow, this could be in Portland. Like,
yeah, it was really cool. Like, it was really, really cool. And so, yes, we do have one good bookstore that's kind of in walking distance to where we are. So I like that.
Well, you should invite me and my wife and daughter down.
I would. You can come down whenever you want.
Nope, I'm gonna wait for an invite.
Okay, wait for a official invite. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm going to talk about next week that I just found is my box of trading cards illustrated by Bill Sienkiewicz of the Kennedy assassination. It's called Coup d'etat, and it's a entire series of cards that like, look at that.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. It actually is really amazing.
When did this come out?
Oh, this came out it came out a while ago. I mean, this is probably from
like early 90s.
Yeah, I think it's from 90s. Yeah, there's 36 of them, and it's Bill
Holy
Sienkiewicz did
shit.
the entire thing, and they're amazing, and every illustration is amazing. I just found these as I was
It's Sienkiewicz, so
yeah, Sienkiewicz, yeah.
not a lot to dislike.
No, it came out from Eclipse Enterprises, and is super cool. So I was going through a lot of those today, so maybe I'll try and scan some of those, and we can talk about it a little more.
Was Eclipse that was a comic company, right?
Yeah, I don't know if this was associated with them, but I know that's what I was thinking too, like 90s indie comic thing. And yeah, Eclipse was definitely a publisher from that era. So maybe it's associated with that.
Can you find out before we talk next week?
I can.
Splendid.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was rad. Thank you for turning me on to a strange record that I had no idea. And thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, that's all Rebecca.
Yeah, she's the best. Cool. So we're going to talk about Dog Soldiers, Neil Marshall, and I don't know what else. I might buy this Katz book. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe buy the Katz book. I'm going to talk about these cards and probably something else that I'm reading. And yeah, I always want to jump on with music, but I'm gonna let my record collection be for a little bit and try to talk about things that are a little more in the universe that we inhabit with this podcast.
Right. Hey guys.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Pack Brothers and Sisters, for supporting this. You can let us know if there's something we should be checking out, like a werewolf movie or some media that you'd love us to review on the show. We have that new voicemail. It's 971-220-5865. 971-220-JUNK.
It really is junk. Oh, that's really awesome.
Yeah, so give us a call, leave a voicemail. We can play on the show, and you can tell Jacob, like, hey, you crazy guy with the Oak Ridge Boys. Hey, yeah. What's up with that? Matt's right. I'm with Matt. You're wrong.
Yep. If that's the only messages we get, that'll make me happy. No, I hope people call in, leave a message, because we're going to try and play as many as we can on the final wrap-up show for this season. So yes. I'm excited for that.
Yes, but we're going to set up those calls on our next episode a little better. Right now, though, it's just an open line. Like, just give us your thoughts. My heart's on fire for the voicemail line. Boom ba boom ba boom ba ba mow mow. Wow. God, you don't like the Oak Ridge Boys? That's so weird to me.
No, I'll stand by it.
All right, do your sign off.
All right, so another bonus showdown. So
fucking waste. I'm not trying to be a fucking Tim guy, but what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a waste.
It's seltzer too. You're not even fucking like. There's no solidarity.
No,
the show's a fucking train wreck.
Yeah.
What are you gonna go drive a fucking Uber after this? Like,
yeah.
Who are you impressing? Your wife?
Yeah. No, and if Matt is basically trying to say to listen to my podcast, it'll be coming out in the next couple months about On Cinema. He's doing his best Tim impersonation.
Oh, by the way, we were on Gamma Charge podcast about the Hulk, talking about the leader, the Peter David McFarlane run. You should check it out. I think we had a good time. I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a great time. I listened to the first. Yeah, you did. I listened to the first half of the episode.
Quantify yours, because like 1 to 10, how good of a time did you have? Because I'm gonna have one better.
I had a 9.
Okay, I was 9.5.
All right, there you go.
Big, beautiful time.
Yeah,
the best time. I have all the times.
You have all the times.
I'm sorry. Please continue. Apologize for my.
All right. So to all the Beast Pack brothers and sisters, may your fur never bristle in the moonlight.
Stay furry, friends.